You have.
No,
right?
I
So
haven't.
No, stop. You don't know anything about these January 6 cases. You don't know why these people are in jail. You don't know that a man is in Brooklyn right now for 3 years without charge or trial. And when Donald Trump says these people have been held for too long, you say, no, Trump is wrong. Keep them locked up. That's fascist.
Tim Pool puts a young, smug, liberal commentator potentially in his place. Do you agree with him? Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend. This is where we call out lies, hypocrisy, and corruption and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters because truth conquers. But you can't conquer anything unless you're strong. Luckily, here to help us get strong is Ancestral Supplements grass-fed beef liver. Beef liver is nature's multivitamin for a reason. Makes your metabolism fast, energy high, cravings low, so you can be strong and healthy. Get it at ancestralsupplements.com/JPReacts, and for 15% off, use code JPReacts. Now let's get into it. So recently, Tim Pool had a young liberal political commentator on named Luke Beasley, and Tim brought the fire. You can see Benny Johnson's comment on this tweet. Tim Pool ends the career of sniveling lib live on his show, guts him like a fish, leaves him shaking in stunned silence. Yeah, that's a good write-up. Now we'll take a look at a little clip from this. I mean, Tim, I've never seen him so passionate. I mean, he's literally yelling at him. The context is January 6ers who have been, that's a weird name. They're January 6ers. They're humans that were at the Capitol on January 6th who have been imprisoned with no due process. Are some guilty of crimes? Probably some are. Others, probably not. Are all of them being held with due process? Yeah, too many are. So that's the context. Before we take a look at Tim yelling at Luke Beasley, you might be like me and realize I listen to 0 independent liberal commentators. I also listen to 0 non-independent liberal commentators. So part of being well-versed. So I didn't hear of this Luke Beasley guy, so I looked him up. His Twitter has him looking like a young liberal, as you would expect. And he's got a pretty decent-sized YouTube channel, over 1 million subscribers. And one thing I noticed on the titles of his videos is something I'm guilty of, and I think a lot of conservatives are guilty of. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm going to keep doing it. But he frames things with his titles, you know, just by the title, he's framing like conservatives, like he's got Dave Rubin here on this one. Trump supporter fights for his life as Cenk Uyghur goes nuclear on him. So of course the framing is to make the conservatives look as bad as possible. And I realized, yeah, I do that on my reaction videos, just in the opposite direction. So life is just kind of balancing life out. I would of course consider my takes far more accurate than this. And just for context, because you'll see Tim putting this kid on blast, and you might say, ooh, is he going a little hard on him? So let's take a quick look at one of these Luke Beasley videos. And this one on his Twitter says, Trump supporters' brain stops working as I try to explain basic socioeconomics. When you see this video, you might understand that's all fluff and no reality. Let's take a quick look. One, by the way, you hear him explaining no socioeconomics. I'm not sure he knows anything about him. Maybe he does, but presumably him being a leftist commentator is probably talking about something about how we need socialism or some breadcrumb trail towards it, how the government needs to be giving people money, which government doesn't have money. They only have our money. So the government needs to be giving your money to other people.
Often when someone is a single mother trying to raise children, those kids are going to be malnourished if we don't give them some support.
It's such bullshit. They're not going to be malnourished.
Have you met people?
That rubs me the wrong way. Have you met people? This kind of confirms some liberal stereotypes. Let's go.
Have you met any single mothers?
My mother was a single mother.
Okay, so maybe she was like really successful or something?
No.
Then how did she support?
Yeah, she worked. So he couldn't comprehend that, like, single mothers, as hard of a job as that is, they actually can get by through hard work. and their children don't die of malnourishment. Some probably need support, but the way he framed this video, Trump supporters' brain stops working when I try to explain basic socioeconomics, and this Trump supporter's brain just had basic recall. No, I was raised by a single mother. I didn't have any malnourishment. She didn't have support. She wasn't abnormally successful. So I would dare say maybe his brain stopped working. So that's just a little bit of context. The type of person that you'll see Tim Pool grilling starting right about now.
These people have been held for too long. You say, no, Trump is wrong. Keep them locked up. That's fascist.
It is effing fascist.
You've been sitting here with no knowledge of the specifics of some of these cases. There is a man in Brooklyn right now. I'm going to say.
By the way, Luke Beasley, he'll probably take this clip and be like, Tim Pool's brain stopped working when I sat there in silence.
No charges whatsoever brought. He's been in jail for 3 fucking years. For you to sit there and say it is good that he remains locked up is fascism. That is saying the hierarchical system of the courts and the government is just, and the process is all that matters. And I am saying perhaps 3 years is enough, because I actually have moral logic and an understanding of these cases.
Really admire Tim Pool for that. And I admire a lot of commentators who have good knowledge of cases, nuances that they're talking about. Something that you'll see him put young Luke on, who surprises his hair's not blue, but put young Luke on blast about is having vague, like they statements. They found this, they found that evidence. Well, what's the evidence? Did you look at that evidence? Or did you just hear the news tell you they found this evidence? So someone like Tim Pool, at least in this case, very well researched, knows his stuff. And that's not necessarily the case of this young man. We'll get back to the video in just a second. But first, my friends, this holiday season, I would say it is time to put your health and wellness at the top of your wish list. And my favorite wellness company on the planet, Bond Charge, is giving you a massive 25% off Black Friday deal. A couple of my favorite products from Bond Charge that help me optimize my health and wellness so I can feel and function my best every day are the Bond Charge blue light blocking glasses and the blackout sleep mask. Because in the evening time, the blue light from all your indoor lighting, screens, and devices has a massive negative impact on your sleep and your hormonal system. It tells your body it's time to wake up when your body should be winding down and preparing for sleep. That's why I put on my Bond Charge blue light blocking glasses a few hours before bed. Helps protect you from the blue light at night, and I find my sleep is much better, and therefore my energy the next day is way more vibrant. And I'm also a massive fan of the Bond Charge blackout sleep mask. I'm just about to leave for the airport, and I never don't have this thing with me. If you need to nap during the day, or you need sleep past the time when the sun's coming up, you'll want the Bond Charge blackout sleep mask. I find it makes a tremendous difference for me, and with its total darkness guarantee, you'll feel as though you're legally blind, which is good when you're sleeping. Both these bad boys make excellent Christmas gifts as well. So if you want to get you or you and yours some health improving products, the blue light blocking glasses or the blackout sleep mask, get your full 25% off Black Friday deal at Bond Charge now. Just go to bondcharge.com/JPReacts, and for your 25% discount, use code JPReacts25. Enjoy. Now back to the video.
My position on January 6th has always been the people who have attacked police must go to prison. But 3 years is a fucking long time for assault on an officer. We have seen people on the far left, notably when they were firebombing all across Minnesota, 33 people murdered. And how many criminal charges do we get for this? When they firebombed a police station and forced the police to evacuate on May 29th, 2020.
May 29th, like, this guy knows his facts.
When thousands of far leftists firebombed the White House grounds and set fire to St. John's Church and injured 100 police officers, how many fucking people went to prison for 3 years? How many of them who never showed up on that day are in prison for 20 years? Enrique Tarrio wasn't even in D.C. on January 6th. And you are saying that man who his only crime was, quote, don't leave. That's his only crime. You think he should be in prison for 20 years?
Now, Tim's obviously mad. And I personally like that. There's a time and a place to get mad. And I would guess some of his anger is at this young man for things he claims and puts out there, tries to influence people's thinking. I get that. Like, I'm drawn to Tim's anger in this. And it's like, I don't feel angry at this Luke dude. I feel angry at the establishment. I feel angry at the news. I feel angry at the political persecution, unjust imprisonment of people who were at the Capitol on January 6th who have not received due process. I feel very angry at that. And I would imagine Tim's got most of his anger bubbling up is that generalization anger that we've probably all had. It's been building up for several years now. And I think in this moment, this young man is sort of the target of that anger. I'm here for it. But I think Tim's anger, his voice of anger, is giving other people, including myself, maybe you, a release. Like, yes, he's not only saying things that represent my thinking, but he's saying it passionately with anger that also represents how I feel.
You don't care what the facts are. You don't care if this is unjust. You only care that the machine state has decreed you are not to be locked up. And this is the problem I have with the left. They don't know the facts. They don't care about the facts. They view morality as a blanket government stroke of the pen, and every person, regardless of their crime, should be in prison for decades. I reject it outright. The people who fought cops should go to prison. They did. It's been 3 years. But when you've got people who are on misdemeanor charges for having walked into a building at 4 p.m. after the riot, and I know some of these people, they walked into a building for 2 minutes and walked out.
Doors held open by the security there and police officers. Seems like we can walk in.
18 months for that. I don't see you defending the innocent people who walked onto a public grass at a public building after a riot had been completed. You don't know. You don't care. You've taken a tribal position and people are suffering because of it. Now you say that Donald Trump saying the injustice that we've seen.
Which, by the way, I will stop in. I appreciate Tim's, like, obviously he's got his point of view and that's what it is. And it's great. But I also appreciate, as angry as Tim is right now, he's got a level of balance to it. Talking about, hey, if you were in January 6th and you assaulted a police officer, those people, they should go to jail. So I appreciate him acknowledging that nuanced perspective. I think that's important for him not to fall into the tribal thinking that he sees this Luke guy doing. I like that.
Warrants, commutation, or pardons, you say that means he's advocating for violence. This is the ultimate problem. Then you cite a press release from Maryland saying, but the right's more violent. There is a distinction between a white supremacist as a right-wing group and a run-of-the-mill Christian conservative.
Yeah, liberals just know there is a big difference.
Who showed up on that day not to protest. Let's talk about Brandon Strzok. He never went in the building. He was on the other side of the building. There was a permitted protest. He walked up the stairs and he was yelling. They put this guy in prison. And it's fine. I get it. We try to be polite. We try to be nice. But there are so many young liberals who sit here and say, the corporate press told me that these people are bad and the machine state government has decreed it by pen.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest point. The liberal press told me so I believe it. Therefore, yes, government, just do what you need to do. It might be fascism. We're not going to see that. We'll think it's the opposite of fascism. I would dare say that's the principal thing that makes me angry. I don't care what someone believes. What I really care about is it's their belief, not just the hardware of their brain being used to run someone else's software while they themselves are convinced that it's their own software. And I get angry about that because I think it is a threat. We've seen what's happened the past 4 years. Major negative stuff can happen that actually impacts our lives. When people aren't willing to do their own thinking, they just believe what they're told to believe. They're force-fed it. You have to eat this. Okay, I'll eat it. Seems like it's in my best interest if you're making me. I do think that's a threat, and anger is an emotion that comes out when there's a threat there. It's part of our fight or flight instinct. The goal is not to get everybody to think like me. I doubt Tim's goal is to get everybody to think like him. I think the goal is the principle of people thinking for themselves.
So I don't care what crime they committed. I don't care what the jury said. I don't care who was on the jury. Enrique Tarrio, who was not there, should be in prison for 2 decades. Tell me this now. Why is Enrique Tarrio in prison?
Yeah, so they uncovered with him his plot to overthrow the government.
Enrique Tarrio, is it?
Yeah, and his organization.
What plot? Who's they? Give me some
prosecutors.
Give me some fucking data. Stop squinting at me and saying the prosecutors did a thing. You didn't know. You didn't read it. You didn't read the court papers. All you know is the fascist machine state told you he should be in prison, and you're saying yes to them.
It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. Now, also, I like to be fair in perspective and say, like, this is obviously Tim's show. And this guy, he entered the lion's den, so like hats off to him. I don't think it was a good look for him. I don't think it came across well. You know, the interview, obviously, it's not really an interview. The discussion continues and he tries to bring up evidence. None of it's to Tim's satisfaction. Maybe it would be to some other people. It wasn't to Tim's. So this is admittedly a presentation that makes this guy look bad. And I do think he looks bad, but just calling it what it is. It's in on Tim's show. He has the mic. Therefore, the cards are stacked against him. And I'm here for it. I love it. I love this clip going around. Principally because it gives you and I a voice and an emotional release for how we feel about this topic and how we feel when we see people maybe on the other side just mindlessly believing things because the news tells them to. Did you get your 9th booster yet? And they're smug in their arrogance. And at any time they try to explain their position, there's no logical completeness to it. So Tim Pool, he gets an Olympic medal for putting a young liberal in his place. And I don't even know if his are his pronouns. That's for him to biologically decide. With that said, hopefully you enjoyed this passionate clip. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I look forward to seeing you on our next video. But until then, keep thinking for yourself.